We're live.
CPR Street Gang, this is all fighting. Standing by, over. CPR Street Gang, this is all fighting. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines,
clocks were now. Time's up.
Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken hearts, a smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
Sleazy, double greasy pirate radio Nut Hut Studios.
This is the story of a 30-year search by U.S. intelligence agencies to perfect mind control. Some of those engaged in that search have agreed to talk about it for the first time. One said, "I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing the line." The search would be endless. From brothels, an agent says, we learned a lot about human nature in the bedroom. To the mystical rites of a magical mushroom, to a Spanish bull ring. The bull has had electrodes implanted in the brain and is controlled by a scientist. There would be victims. One intelligence agency tried to peel this man's mind back to reveal its deepest secrets. This man worked on some of these programs. He would write of his work, "It was fun, fun, fun." This is the story of the search for mind control.
Mission: mind control. Mind control. Mind control. Mind control.
My name's Jimmy, and Into the Microcosm is on the air.
Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the Dog Man together, more or less in line, just keep trucking on.
Arrows of neon and flashing marquees out on Main Street. Chicago, New York, Detroit, and it's all on the same street. A typical city involved in a typical daydream. Hang it up and see what tomorrow brings.
Dallas, got a salt machine. Houston.
All right, well, welcome. It's Aftermath.fm. My name is Jimmy. It's Into the Microcosm. Got a great show planned for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sitting here with the Epic Journeyman. I'm sitting here with Brandy Lou. We got a very special bro who's actually coming on, and he's brought along with him a very special guest, and we're gonna get into it. It's Into the Microcosm. Epic Journeyman. Are you there?
I am here.
Excellent. Well, it's good to have you, man. It's good to see you. How's the waves looking today over on Maui?
Awesome.
Excellent.
As usual. Yeah,
all
very
right.
nice.
Well, yeah, I know last week you snapped your board in half on those 15-footers. You came home with your board in 2 pieces, and that's never a good thing.
It's just some toms on my drum set.
I know. Well, hey, I'm real excited about tonight. We got a very special guest coming up a little bit later, and some of what she has to say may, in fact, corroborate some of our suppositions that we've made in the past about a certain organization down in Los Angeles, certain individual, and certain types of mind-controlled women have been manipulated through the system and used up and thrown away like so much trash. And we've talked about it before, and we're going to talk about it today, and we're going to talk about it with somebody who actually is going to be able to tell you from a first-hand experience about what happened rather than hearing about it from somebody else. Brandy Lou, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I'm here, James.
Excellent. So
sorry.
How you doing, Brandy?
Okay.
You doing good? You doing good, Brandy?
I'm doing well, Jim.
Excellent. Well, listen, I got a piece here. I'm going to run this piece real quick before we get Ron on the line. Ron Patton's here with us, and he's got a very special guest, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to run a clip here. This clip's about 10 minutes long. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into it. My name's Jimmy. It's in the microcosm. Brandy Lou, Epic Journeyman, rockin' Ronnie Patton, and
changes in behavior, mental attitude.
Did you ever consider what would have happened if any of these substances were given to, say, unwitting people?
You see hallucinations, but that doesn't begin to tell this story. The hallucinations are only part of it. You hear sounds, you smell things. The night was thrilling.
Word of Wasson's discovery reached the CIA quickly.
Fundamental information on compounds that would be capable of causing changes in behavior, changes in mental attitude.
Did you ever consider what would have happened if any of these substances were given to, say, unwitting people?
Would have been given to
unwitting persons?
You mean a hostile agent of another government?
No, I mean
that was probably one of the things they had in mind.
I mean testing it out on an American citizen.
I guess I must seem very, very cold-blooded about this, but I don't recall ever having been very much preoccupied with that issue.
But many drugs were tested in this way. A decision was made at the highest levels of the CIA to do testing on unwitting Americans. As one CIA document says, such testing would be operationally realistic.
I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing a line. Every decent kid knows he shouldn't steal, but he does it sometimes. We knew damn well we didn't want anyone else to know what we were doing.
The decision was made to do testing on unwitting victims. It was decided they should be on the fringes of society because they
would be powerless to seek any kind of revenge in case they found out.
White set up so-called safe houses for the CIA in New York, here in Greenwich Village, and later in San Francisco, in this hotel, and in an apartment atop Telegraph Hill with a commanding view of San Francisco Bay. While the existence of these safe houses was disclosed last year, details of what took place within them has not been told. A former CIA official who worked in the safe houses reveals that they were used not only for drug testing, but to study sexual behavior and how it could be used to manipulate people.
We did quite a study of prostitutes and their behavior. How do you take a woman who is willing to use her body to get money out of a guy to get him to talk about things which are much more important, like state secrets? We learned a lot about human nature in the bedroom. we started to pick up knowledge that could be used in operations.
There would be victims in all of this, but as the agency knew, they couldn't fight back. Dr. Timothy Leary, the 1960s Johnny Appleseed of LSD. And suddenly, there was the counterculture of the 60s.
I give the CIA a total credit for sponsoring and initiating the entire consciousness movement, counterculture events of the 1960s. The CIA funded and supported and encouraged hundreds of young psychiatrists to experiment with this drug.
History will judge the role of the CIA and other intelligence agencies in unwittingly contributing to the counterculture of the 60s through their intense interest in LSD and other hallucinogenics. By far, the most chilling experiments we have uncovered took place at this Gothic estate called Raven's Crag, halfway up Mount Royal in Montreal. It houses the Allen Memorial Institute of Psychiatry of McGill University. It was here that the CIA funded a series of experiments, severe experiments. The work was done by the Institute's then director, Dr. Ewan Cameron. It is the closest experimentation to brainwashing yet disclosed. His work, unprecedented in psychiatry, consisted of 3 areas which he called sleep therapy, psychic driving, and the ultimate depatterning. Dr. Maurice Dongier, current head of the Allen Memorial Institute.
In his psychic driving, so-called type of therapy, he would give the patient intensive electric treatment in order to make the patient regress deeply, become forgetful, and then he would attempt to implant new ideas in the mind of the patient.
Now, to a layman, it would appear that Dr. Cameron was trying to take the slate and wipe it clean, the slate being the mind. In other words, brainwashing.
Exactly, that's a very good comparison.
Brainwashing.
Yes, right.
Val Orlico of Winnipeg, Canada, the wife of a member of the Canadian Parliament, was a patient of Dr. Cameron's. She entered the Allen Memorial Institute because of severe depression. She describes for the first time publicly the LSD therapy and psychic driving treatment that she was given by Dr. Cameron.
And then the drug began to take hold very rapidly because it was an IV injection. And things became very furry and very frightening, and had a lot of sensations that it's very difficult to recall. Nobody explained it to me. Nobody ever asked me if I was willing to do it or anything.
He had this feeling that he would be able to get through the resistance of illness and to reach deep changes very quickly.
Did he?
I don't think that when you look at that in retrospect, the hopes that he had have been in any way fulfilled.
But Cameron would plunge on. The next step was what he called psychic driving. This involved almost endless tape-recorded messages and more drugs for the patient. Cameron wrote that this was the way to make direct controlled changes in personality.
I thought this was the coldest and most impersonal treatment that anybody could give to anybody in the world. And I became more and more despondent and more angry. I just became so despondent that I thought I can't live like this any longer. And I thought I would just go out and throw myself underneath the cars on McGregor. I stood on the curb of that street and I stood there and I thought, okay, go. Okay, go. And then I thought, what if you're not killed? What if you're just maimed? What if you don't die and you live and you can't even talk anymore? And I couldn't do it.
My name's Jimmy. It's in the microcosm. We're talking about unwitting participants in mind control programs that have gone on across the United States of America, perpetuated by the CIA. The company, man. The company. Well, we're not finished yet. Got some more information coming up here Aftermath.fm into the microcosm. Have Ron Patton on standby, and we're about to hit the deck.
The most severe technique Cameron used was de-patterning. He described it as breaking up the existing patterns of behavior by means of intensive electroshock therapy with prolonged periods of sleep. He carried out these experiments in something he called the sleep rooms.
People in there were like babies. They cried and they were very disoriented. And we were very afraid of the sleep room. We used to walk very carefully against the side of the corridor that was opposite the sleep room with our backs to the wall when we'd go by.
Cameron used this combined sleep electroshock treatment on patients as long as 30 days. One patient he kept asleep for 65 days.
But the follow-up study showed that 60% of those who had been de-patterned still had amnesia for periods of anywhere from 6 months to 10 years. That's quite a memory loss, isn't it?
That is a memory loss. Indeed it is. It's I think, more than desirable.
In retrospect, does Dr. Cameron's experimentation and his treatment appear harsh?
I would say yes. I mean, this forceful type of approach that I was describing to you is definitely, it can be said that it's harsh.
I wouldn't call it harsh. I would say it was harder on the staff than it was on the patients, because these people had to be fed and they had to be cared for and they had to be given sufficient fluid and food and toileted and so on and so forth. It was a very difficult thing for the staff to follow these patients properly and see that they did well.
Well, I'm glad he was concerned for the staff. But damn it all, I wouldn't. I could have maybe had a different kind of life. And that makes me angry and sad, and I don't know how to explain how I feel, really. I just
Brandy Lou, are you ready?
Yes.
I am.
Excellent.
Almost ready, Jimmy.
Excellent.
Oh, I keep thinking you're saying something else.
I'm not,
I'm
but
sorry.
it's totally okay because it's almost indecipherable between the two of you. Brandy, go ahead. Introduce Ron Patton, the bad boy over there, the bad boy or the alternative, the man underground. Go ahead, give him a shout out.
Okay, well, we're honored to have Ron L. Patton as a guest on Into the Microcosm today, or tonight, whenever you're listening to this. Ron is the executive producer at Channel Weird, content consultant at Aftermath FM, an executive editor at Paranoia Magazine, and the executive producer at Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. You can find Ron at Channel Weird and Aftermath and Paranoia Magazine. And in fact, he's going to be interviewing Richard Allen Miller pretty soon here, and that'll be available on SoundCloud. Very active, busy guy, smart guy, and we really appreciate you being here, Ron, at Into the Microcosm, and for having the opportunity to be part of a very important broadcast here. So how are you doing today?
Doing quite well. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, thanks for being here. You know it's it's the funniest thing ever is the very first broadcast I was ever going to do. You and Clyde and Richard Allen Miller were all in the same car. And you guys were driving to some conference or something, and you were going to come you guys were going to come on my show. All three of you. And there was technical difficulties at the network, and you guys never made it on. And I was promoting it for like weeks. They're coming on, you know. I mean, you guys didn't really commit, but I mean, you know, there was a rumor, you know. So it was fun. It's great to have you, Ronnie. Thanks for coming, bro. Hey, how's everything going? So are you publishing the magazine again, or what's going on with that? Because I think people that listen to the show really would like to know about the magazine, because the stuff that's there on the website, I think people are really stoked on. Go ahead.
Right. Well, Olaf Phillips is the publisher, and because of COVID and some other issues, the pandemic, it's been on hiatus. However, we do plan on releasing sort of a best of Paranoia coming up this summer, so
Sweet.
stay tuned for that.
Sweet, man. And I hear there's rumors that the Paranoia podcast might be coming on to Aftermath.fm pretty soon. Is that can you confirm or deny those rumors?
I can very much confirm that. Yeah, we're doing we're going to record a interview with Richard Allen Miller tonight, as a matter of fact.
Sweet.
And then starting next week, we'll be live on Aftermath.fm, hopefully on Sundays, 10 p.m. Pacific time.
All right.
So Olaf and I are really looking forward to that and contributing to Aftermath.fm, because it is truly the epitome of counterculture radio.
Well, we've kept our guest waiting for a long time, and I'd really like to get her here into the mix. And as long I could sit here all day and talk to you, Ron, about a million things. Like you were on pirate radio, you were actually on pirate radio.
Oh yeah.
And you're gonna have to come back and do a show with me just on pirate radio by itself. But in the meantime, let's get back to the issue at hand here, what we're talking about tonight. Why don't you fill people in a little bit about our guest and how you guys came to be, and a little bit give the audience a little bit of an understanding of how we got here, and then let's bring her on, because I'd really like to get to know her.
Right. So kind of giving you a little bit of background information. I used to write for Paranoia magazine, and I wrote one particular article called Project Monarch Nazi Mind Control, which came out in the fall of 1996 in Paranoia, and it was pretty well received. And I got tons of correspondence and a lot of phone calls too. A few of those phone calls were actually survivors of MK Ultra in a program known as Project Monarch, which had to do with individuals who were traumatized at a very young age, and that created multiple personality disorder, or what is known as DID, or dissociative identity disorder. And these alters were programmed. So you might have one alter that's programmed as an assassin, another alter or personality could be like a human tape recorder, and another one used for sex.
Well,
it's
interesting.
When I was listening, go ahead.
I was going to say the monarch butterfly and the monarch butterfly has been present quite a bit on the Playboy organization's materials over the years. There's been several covers that have even, focused on it, as a matter of fact. Go ahead.
Very much so. Very much so. And so one of the calls that I received was from a person by the name of Susan, who is an MK from the Midwest. And we had a pretty good rapport going. And she told me she had a friend by the name of April who she was trying to help out. And she said that she was going to be in Salt Lake City. This was in October of 1997. And she was hoping that I could help her out, safe house her for a couple of weeks until a guy by the name of Ted Gunderson, a former FBI bureau chief, would assist in getting her something that's more permanent with regard to, changing her identity and starting a new life. So, it was kind of an ominous task. I was thinking about it. And when I was married at the time, I, talked to my wife, and she said, well,
not only is it ominous, but how could you say no? You know what I mean? I mean, you're in a position where it's ominous, and
sure. all the information that I knew, and so I talked to April for a little bit, and she told me her story, and it was quite compelling. So I just decided, okay, well, I'll go pick her up and bring her back, but I needed somebody to come with me, and so I had a good friend who was in. He used to be in the special forces, and he knew his stuff, and so he was
Nice.
one guy I could definitely trust. So I brought him along, and so that's the beginning of the journey. We were on our way to Salt Lake City, and then that's when I met April. So if you want to bring April on now, she can maybe fill you in on the rest.
Hi, April, and welcome into the microcosm. I'm Jimmy, and we have Brandy here, Epic Journeyman's here, Rockin' Rio's here, and of course, Ronnie, the bad boy of the alternative, is also here too. So welcome, and feel free, feel at home. If you were here, I'd offer you a little something, a cup of tea, or I am in California, and I happen to be smoking mother's milk over here. But anyhow, if you were here, I'd offer you something. But since I don't have anything, I just want you to feel at home and feel comfortable with us, and don't put yourself in any emotional situations over sharing what your story. I just want to make you where we're really honored to have you here, and we want to welcome you with open arms, open hearts. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy. Hey, Ron.
Hey. Yeah, it's been 27 years.
I know.
No, not that long. Actually, no, it's actually been 24 years. Excuse me.
Yeah,
24
you'll
years.
always be. Ron will always be my hero. Absolutely. I was rescued by counterintelligence in '94, and they had shut down LAX airport, and every initial you could imagine was there, and the military was there. They were surrounding the plane, checking the planes for bombs. I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. I was scared half to death, and I curled up in a fetal position on the plane. I was towards the window, and this man wearing a trench coat, had a briefcase, yes, in the summertime in California. And he says,
Wow.
Are you April? And I just looked at him and shook my head, yes. And he said, Senator Mickelson sent me. I'm a friend. And he sat in the seat next to me. And he basically made me feel comfortable on the way back to Michigan. But when I got home, it was really hard. I had a really hard time adjusting. I felt like, most people look outside and they'd see the sun shining and the birds chirping. And when I'd look outside, I would see a facade. And the darkness just waiting to come in and take you. That's how I looked at the world. But I was bound and determined to make it and blend in with society and be like everybody else. My goal in life went from being successful to being a success at surviving. And because you still try to set your expectations high, but you can only, they'll only let you get so far. I mean, I've just been so tagged, monitored, red flagged. I mean, I've been on airplanes and been held back, and the passengers are like wanting to know why they're holding me back. And then the stewardess says, mind your own business. And they're going, no, we're not getting off the plane until we know what happens to this girl. She's been sleeping all the way here. We can't imagine why you have security. And, some of the passengers were noticing something's not right. And they had an ambulance there. It was bizarre.
Well,
and
can I ask you a question?
So,
are you
sure.
Are you a person? First of all, are you a person? Do you have Rh negative blood type?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I'm AB positive.
Okay, and secondly, are you susceptible to hypnotism?
Very.
Okay. So, was there any point in time where, I mean, how did you end up in the place that you were that you had to escape from in the first place?
Well, it certainly wasn't a place I was looking for or asked for. I was always a pretty good girl. I grew up Southern Baptist, King James only. I still love the Lord with all my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a lot of morals. And what happened to me was pretty much just unlucky in birth. I mean, my biological mother was a stripper, and my biological father was a semi-famous musician. And when I say semi-famous, he's one of those bands that used to tour with the bigger bands.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on stage with Jimi Hendrix and stuff. But I'm telling you, my biological father's side of the family is actually good.
Mm-hmm.
It was my mother's side of the family that was pretty bad.
Well, but your dad being a musician, did you get introduced, say, into these into the?
I never knew him.
Oh,
I never
see.
knew him.
Mm-hmm.
I only met my siblings 2 years ago. I never met my father.
Oh wow.
I wish I would have. I met my family through Ancestry, and I'm just so proud of them. I mean, I have some absolutely drop-dead gorgeous sisters with very high IQs.
All right.
And, I mean, very, very, very proud of them.
Well,
I have
that
two
seems...
awesome brothers. Three awesome brothers that I just adore, and a bunch of extended family that I've just fallen in love with. And I love them so much, and I think Ancestry was the best thing I ever did.
Wow.
But I also found out some very interesting things on my mother's side of the family.
There used to be something called Alma that you could find your adopted parents through it, and they would help you do it and help you find it. Now, something that you said there, I kind of want to circle back on simply because there's been this repeating over and over again of these absolutely drop-dead gorgeous women with super high IQs that have ended up in similar situations to yours. So the thing is that from all that I've seen from the outside, now I haven't been where you've been, but what I'm saying from what I've seen on the outside, it seems that they take somebody's wholesome beauty and personality, and then they weaponize that. And one thing a lot of these beautiful high IQ women all had in common was they were susceptible to hypnotism. And at some point in their lives, they ended up at a party after the party. And at that party was where they've been spotted at a different party by somebody who can see people who will be susceptible to hypnotism, and everyone who is then subsequently invited to the after party. And that's where the LSD goes in the drink. You meet your handler, you get hypnotized, and then from that point forward, that person's controlling you. Now, that's what we've done our research on. And it sounds like somehow you've gotten mixed up in this same thing, because your story, from what Ron has told me, it seems a lot similar to what I'm describing here.
Yeah, a lot of my girlfriends were very beautiful. One of my best friends, Guyana, she was in the movie Lionheart with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Mm-hmm. She had like a pink and black polka dot swimsuit, long dark hair. She was gorgeous Italian girl. And she was actually Miss Corona for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with her at Acapulco's, and I met her when I started doing things for Snap-on Tools.
Mm-hmm.
And we got really close. But, if we want to go back before California,
mm-hmm.
I was adopted out. And here's the bizarre thing, when I was 3, I was taken to this facility, and I was extremely traumatized. And I remember even at 3 years old trying so hard to remember what happened, like, right before, and I couldn't remember no matter how hard I tried. And I knew it was something really bad, but I just couldn't remember. I was trying to remember and couldn't. And you got to understand, it had just happened, so how could I forget it? But I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I entered this building, and the police and, you know, a couple of, I'm guessing, social workers took me into this building, and I was immediately, right after I was traumatized, was taken into a testing facility. And I remember it was a big building, and it had a glass wall. And on one side was a man wearing a white lab coat with his name tag, and there was a bunch of desks set up with timers and puzzles. And where we first started was me sitting on the other side of his desk. And he started showing me ink blots, asking me what I saw. And I remember he was frustrated with me at one point because he showed me an ink blot that I suppose could have been looked at like a butterfly, but I kept saying it looked like a bat.
Yeah.
And he said, do you see anything else? I said, no, I see a bat. And I remember that specifically. And he seemed frustrated over that. And now that I know more of what's going on, I'm pretty sure he wanted me to say a butterfly.
Yeah. Well, they kept...
I bucked him right from the beginning. What can I say?
Yeah.
But so after that, he took me and he says, okay, now April, he says, when I hit my stopwatch, he goes, I want you to start putting that puzzle together. He said, and as soon as you're done, and he pressed the dinger to show me, he says, you hit that bell. And I said, okay, and he had a stopwatch. So I did the first one, then we moved to the next desk, and then the next desk. There were so many things that they had me do. I mean, I remember being really tired. They just kept testing. There were so many desks with stuff at it. It was just weird. But then on the other side of the wall, when I got done there, this lady came over and grabbed my hand and she said, let's go play. And so I went on the other side and I was playing with the other kids on the playground. And I noticed that people were taking notes. I mean, even at 3, I knew they were writing about me. And people think you don't know that when you're little. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I mean, you know when somebody's watching you and making notes. I don't care, you know. Seriously,
yeah, right.
I knew.
Obviously.
And I don't remember exactly what happened after that. I think yes, I do. I got taken back to my foster care place. I remember I got really scared because an adult had come into the room and they were wearing black. I couldn't handle watching any adult wearing black. I would start losing my mind. I would start screaming bloody murder, like something really bad was going to happen. I couldn't remember. I just was scared of them. And I reacted that way my first day of kindergarten when my teacher came in a black suit. And you remember those days, and, you know, it was a dress suit, though. And if you remember those days, you know, that was back when people dressed a little more professional.
Right.
And I flipped out. She had to call my mom to come and get me, and I had to wait a year to re-enter school, and she decided to put me in preschool.
Well, do you know...
So I could learn how to socialize.
There's something that you also have in common with some of the other research we've done on individuals that were orphans at birth and end up in facilities. You know that there's a bunch of children, and in this when they get in this sea of children, what happens is the smartest, brightest children are picked out of these groups of children that have no parents. These children are going to end up in the system. But once they're singled out, then they have these names and these people on top for the rest of their lives. And, you know...
Yep, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So that's what I wanted to point out. Please continue, April. I'm fascinated by what you're saying. It's blowing my mind.
Well, I knew I was going to be in trouble because coming down the slide, I peed my pants. Because I was so scared when I saw the adult dressed in black, and I mean, I ran and hid behind the coat closet, or behind the coats that were hanging up, I should say. And I was just screaming. And I remember this really nice lady reached down and picked me up, and she just held me. And you remember the people that are kind. Those are the ones that really stick out in your mind, because, when you come from my world, you don't meet a lot of kind people, because everything is a coordinated effort. Very rarely would you meet somebody outside of the realm of who they wanted you to meet. They consume your whole world with their people, and you think that you made these friends on your own, and you didn't.
Right.
It was them propagating everything, even down to the men I would date. I would think, oh my gosh, maybe I can get some normal, right? But no, if that did happen, what they would do is they would send the men in. This really happened to me. I was at Acapulco's. I was on a date with a guy named Ben, and he was so sweet. And so we were having margaritas at the bar.
Nice.
And Metro Periani came in, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and immediately my heart sunk.
Oh.
And my heart started beating fast, because I knew I was about to lose another great guy. And he said, there's somebody waiting outside, and we need you to leave with us right now. And I said, I'm not going anywhere. So get away from me. And so I followed him out to the door, and I looked at him and I said, look, I know what you are. And I said, people know your name, but nobody knows what you look like. And I said, you ever pull that again, I will start screaming your name at the top of my voice and pointing right at you so everybody knows who you are. And he says, you need to get in the limo. I said, I don't care who's in there. I said, I'm not getting in that limo. I said, I'm on a date. Well, Clinton was in the limo. And I walked back inside Acapulco's, and Ben and I left. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go to the beach. Let's go to the beach. And he said, who was that? And I said, nobody. And he said, what's going on? And I said, nothing. And he'd say, who are you? Because he noticed that we were being followed. I mean, it was so obvious, and they were doing it on purpose to scare him off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't care about him. They just wanted me isolated and alone so that nobody could be there to protect me.
Especially if you met somebody accidentally that you fell in love with or something, that they weren't controlling that person. They wouldn't want to have that. They needed to get rid of that guy somehow, whether they kick his ass, whether they follow him, whether they rough him up when he leaves your house, whether they...
I don't know if they ever did that. I know that they would use intimidation right in front of me. But I've never had any boyfriends that I know of that have gotten harassed. And I'm still friends with a great deal of some of my boyfriends, not a great deal, but like 3 or 4. But there's one that I'm particularly close with, not because I'm still in love with him, but because he went through an awful lot with me.
Right.
And there'll always be that bond of friendship. And I know that all I have to do is make one phone call, and I can have ex-military at my house in a very quick, hot second. So that is one connection I will never give up.
Right.
And he knows the score. He's been through.
So
put it this way, I never saw a grown man cry, and when he saw some things right in front of his face and realized just how real it really was, he had a really hard time with it. I mean, it wasn't like a threat to our relationship, but I think for the first time he realized, wow, this is real. And, I don't really get bothered much anymore. The last time I was followed was maybe like 5 years ago. It's like when Trump got in office, I kind of got a break.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Trump, and this is God's honest truth. The last time I had any incidents happen was in 2015. When they were doing their Jade Helm exercises, the military exercises, on civilian locations.
Mastering the human domain.
Right. Well, of course, they're going to use that as an excuse to fly really low over my house and then call it an exercise because they know it's going to traumatize me, right?
Oh man, that must.
So, there's always that. But other than that, no, I would say 2015, 2016, I went before U.S. Senator James Langford's office. And I sat there for 4 hours, and, his people took my deposition, and he personally, at least I'm hoping he did, you never know, he supposedly he supposedly handed it personally to Donald Trump, which I kind of wonder if he did or didn't, but I remember Rex Tillerson, because I was on Twitter, and they never respond to anybody, and he sent me a heart on
All
Twitter.
Right. Nice.
And that would have been right around that time when James Langford was supposed to hand my deposition to Trump, and I think that was his way of letting me know, hey, we got it.
Great. That's kick-ass. That is kick-ass. Let me ask you a question. Was there a moment when you became aware of yourself in this situation that you're in, where you all of a sudden realized that what was going on with you in your life might not have been your own, that you all of a sudden kind of woke up, there was an awareness moment where you realized what was going on, and then you started trying to figure out how to piece it all together? Was there like a moment that came like that for you?
The aha moment was after I got rescued, but of course there's moments before then when you get that gut feeling. I mean, I don't remember how I got there, and I don't remember who I was with, but I had went to a Def Leppard concert, and the security immediately brought me down front.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his name's Joe Elliott, whatever.
Right. Yeah, Joe.
And
Elliott.
he had his roadie give the security guy a note to give to me.
Because he thought you were hot, right? He's like, hey, give her a note. The girl right there in front.
Well, here's the weird part. It seemed like no matter where I went, there could be thousands of people, thousands of women everywhere, and I was always the one that was singled out everywhere I went.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, even at Bennigan's, they had no business at all. When I started bartending there, it was packed. It was so busy, we had to have a bar back on during the day.
It's almost like it's almost like you were it's almost like you were a bug light. As soon as you entered the room, every single insect.
A magnet.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
I had a key. I had a key to every club. And when I say key, you get a key card. Like, in California, you have to wait in line in order to get in. I was just handed key clubs like it was candy. I had one to the Roxbury. Places where nobody else can get in.
Right.
I had one everywhere. I never had to wait in line.
Nope.
It was always, hey, from now on, don't wait in line. You're on the list.
Because
here's your card. You just show this card, and we just let you through every time, you and whoever you want to bring with you.
And because they want to have beautiful, smart people sitting at the bar, enjoying themselves, and that's what makes a place popular. And so having you in there, the bug light that you are, the way you draw crowds, the way you bring people in, having you involved in these, having you show your face in my club would be a great thing if I owned a club. So I can understand why they did that, and I'm sure you've been a lot of places. If you're down in Los Angeles, I'm sure you've been a lot of places down there. There's a lot of things that happen. It's a domino effect down there. You end up here, you go there, boom. Next
It's
thing.
all by design. It's all by design. It's like they coordinated every move I made throughout my whole life, and I never realized it until, I'm going to say, I became friends with my programmer's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I think I knew I was in too deep when I was at a Bilderberg soiree, and it doesn't get worse than that. And that's the soiree that U.S. Senator Patrick Mickelson crashed with Councilwoman Phyllis Patton. I was having dinner with John Smith Kennedy, that's JFK Jr.'s first cousin, and Jennifer was at the table with us, and I was supposed to have dinner with them. Well, prior to that, Senator Mickelson, I was introduced to him, and he told me, he says, you don't look like you're happy to be here. He said, most women would die to be in your shoes. And I looked at him and tears started rolling down my face, and I said, that's an interesting choice of words. And he said, don't cry. There's people that know about you, and we're going to get you home. Come this way. Let me teach you about politics. What do you know about politics, Penny? Or April? I said, I know that I can't trust anybody, and they all seem to be the same person. And he said, the thing about that is this. He goes, Republican, Democrat, it's all a farce. He said, Big Brother runs everything. He said, the reason you're confused is because it's the Brotherhood. Freemasons are on both sides of the aisle working towards the same agenda, conquer and divide. That's their agenda. If they can keep people confused and keep people divided between party lines, people won't figure out what's going on, and everything will go right over their head. And so he taught me politics in like 10 minutes. And after that, when I got home, of course, I started doing my own research after that. But even before then, I knew what Freemasons were, because Jennifer Fraley, now here's the thing. It was weird with Jennifer, how we became friends. I met her at Bennigan's. I was bartending there, and they were making me the bar manager, and I was raking in some major bank. What I didn't realize is that most of my clientele was from the aerospace bases. A lot of them came in dressed down. I had a lot of suits come in. I just assumed they were businessmen, not. And I remember there being conversations when I was at work, and one of the guys said, she has no idea who she is, does she? And I heard somebody say, shut up. And I turned and I go, what did you just say? I said, what did you mean by that? And it's like, people would do that to me all the time. I would hear something, and then they'd pretend they never said it.
Well, let me ask you this question now. This brings up something pretty interesting to me about Bennigan's, because number one, Bennigan's is known for hiring a certain kind of woman to work there. Okay, and now you got these guys coming over there from over there dressed down, coming over there getting drunk, talking about stuff in front of you. Is there any potential that you could have overheard stuff and potentially be hypnotized to, necessarily?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I heard stuff all the time. I was always getting flowers. Here's the weird part that happened to me when I lived in California. People would come up and just take my picture. Now, I was a nobody. I wasn't a movie star. I was nobody. And it was just bizarre. I would be coming out of my house. All of a sudden, they'd snap a picture. I ended up in the Orange County Gazette, I think it was called. Right. No, it was Orange County. It was the Society magazine. And I was dancing with investment banker Steve Klein. Well, it was at Bobby McGee's. I had no idea who he really was. I mean, I was just trying to do what I could to have some fun and survive the crap I was going through. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And you know what's even more interesting is the fact that out of any place in Southern California, the one place where it's a major league Republican stronghold is Orange County. That's where all the big money is, man. I'm telling you, you go from Los Angeles County to Orange County, and the roads change. You drive up to Orange. Oh yeah. You drive up to the Orange County lines, man. You're driving through potholes, ditches. You're trying to avoid shit. Yeah. I lived in Los Angeles for a long time down there, and so I'm quite familiar with a lot of what you're talking about firsthand. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything with us. My name's Jimmy. It's Aftermath.fm. It's Into the Microcosm. I'm here with the bad boy, Ronnie, Patton. I'm here with April, Brandy Lou, Epic Journeyman, Rock and Rio. We're all here, but we're so fascinated. We are fully on quiet mode, and we're listening. And thank you so much for being here. And here's a little bit of music so you can take a break, take a breather, drink something. Everybody take three.
I'll get out of all your boxes. I'll get out. You can't hold me in these chains. I'll get out. Father, free me from this bondage. Knowing my condition is the reason I must change. Your stinking resolution is no type of solution. Preventing me from freedom, maintaining your pollution. I won't support your lie no more. I won't even try no more. If I have to die, oh Lord, that's how I choose to live. I won't be compromised no more. I can't be victimized no more. I just don't sympathize no more. Cause now I understand. You just wanna use me. You say love then abuse me. You never thought you'd lose me. But how quickly we forget that nothing is for certain. You thought I'd stay here hurting. Your guilt trip's just not working, repressing me to death. Cause now I'm choosing life, yo. I'll take the sacrifice, yo. If everything must go, then go. That's how I choose to live.
It's Aftermath FM.
Okay, we're getting there. At least I had a chunk. Okay, that's how I choose to live. No more compromises. I see past your disguises, blinding through mind control, stealing my eternal soul, appealing through material to keep me as your slave. But I'll get out. Oh, I'll get out of all your boxes. I'll get out. Oh, you can't hold me in these chains. I'll get out. Oh, I want out of social bondage.
My name's Jimmy. It's In the Microcosm. Sitting here with Ron Patton. Ronnie, come on in. We got Brandy, Epic Journeyman, and Rock and Rio here too, and they want to ask questions for April. They've been kicking back, being quiet, and Epic Journeyman, Ronnie. Tell everybody where they can find you beyond here on the show today. Where can they find you normally? Where can they stay in touch with you? Do you have a way people can reach you?
Well, yeah, I guess via email is probably the best bet. groundzeroron@gmail.com. I don't have my own website, but I'm also connected with Paranoia Magazine. I'm the editor there, and so paranoiamagazine.com or paranoiapublishing.com. And with Ground Zero, it's groundzeromedia.org.
Excellente. Well, Epic Journeyman, hola. Now, you've been sitting quiet over there, and April's here. I'm sure she's back now. If she stepped off to grab a little something to drink, wet her whistle, she's ready to come back. And so, Epic Journeyman, do you have any questions specifically for April based on some of the stuff we've heard so far, or something that you might want to ask her?
Oh, a bunch. I want to. Are you there, April?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're going to start back when you were 3 years old with the facility where you went and took those tests. I didn't hear where that was at. What you know what state that was? What area?
It was in Michigan. And that's the weird thing is Kathy O'Brien and I had so many things in common when we were both comparing our stories. I mean, she worked at the Playboy Club. I worked at the Playboy Club. She was from Muskegon. I was from Mason. Michigan.
Mason.
Think on that one for a minute, okay? But, lots of commonalities. We had a lot of the same people in common, but then a lot of them we didn't too. We had a lot of the locations in common. It was the commonalities are just crazy.
Hey,
Yeah, well,
so
Michigan.
April,
Oh, go ahead.
really quick, April, you might want to give people a background about who Kathy O'Brien is, because there's a lot of people who may not know who she is.
Kathy O'Brien was rescued by Mark Phillips, who was Department of Defense. He had learned about MK Ultra and Project Paperclip when they imported the Nazi fascist scientists into the United States to run experiments on people like ourselves. And Kathy was used on presidential levels and was a monarch like myself. And what that means is that, you know, people think that trafficking just consists of lowlifes coming into a hotel room and doing it. That's not always true. The ones like Kathy and I that were robotic, that had the high IQs, were used more in espionage against our will, and our daughters were always our point of contention to do as we were told. And then the health of our children were always mentioned. You know, how's your daughter doing? Da 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 da. Well, that's good. I hope that they stay that way. Hint, hint. You know, they never come out and do a direct threat. It's always implied.
Yeah.
And you know, they're always good at whipping out the lofty recent pictures that they had taken, like, states away. I had my brakes cut 7 times after I got rescued. They tried to run me over twice, and I had constant helicopter surveillance. Now that I still get, and you know, you can, you know, say that comes down to, you know, living in Oklahoma, you know, where it's kind of a military state, but you know, somebody's got to explain to me where the military are supposed to fly 10 to 20 feet above your house.
Do you have blank
Right?
Do you have blank spots in your memory when you go back thinking about stuff? Is there periods of your life where you really can't even remember anything at all?
Tons. I mean, tons. One time I went to work and I thought it was the next day. And I got up and I went to work and I went to go to Bennigan's and I found out I hadn't been there for 3 months and then I got fired.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It was, I mean, I thought I was losing my mind. I really did. I thought I was crazy.
Let me circle back to Bennigan's also. Like, so there's a thing about Bennigan's a lot of people don't know, and I'm not sure if this is every location, but there's one in San Diego in the kind of La Mesa area that I went to in the 2000s, you know, kind of like 2010, 11-ish, with a girlfriend, and it was not as crowded as it used to be. It's not as popular as it used to be. But I noticed I set up on the upper, you know, it has separated stages, right? Like there's almost like an elevated seating area, and there's a bar area and all that stuff, right? And that elevated area actually had the mason pillars in the checkerboard floor. And I'm curious, you talked about the mason connection, if that actually was something you saw, you mentioned earlier a lot dealing with that particular establishment, because I noticed when my girlfriend went into the bathroom, she took a picture of me, from as she was leaving the women's bathroom. There's a picture above the door that said Mason's mother holds his secrets or something like that. I have the picture stashed somewhere. In other words, it definitely was related to the Masonic Lodge, no question about it. So I wonder if that's something common.
Well,
in that
the thing is too, is that particularly in San Diego, you have a huge military presence. You have a huge Navy population. Bennigan's is known specifically for having beautiful bartenders and waitresses. They do it for a reason. Now I'm saying who's the manager of Bennigan's? Is he a bro? Is he throwing up the lion's paw shake when homeboy comes in and goes, "Hey, I need you to hire this girl applied for a job here. I need you to hire this.
Yep.
I need you to hire."
Oh, yes, he was. He was that kind of guy. Yes, he was.
There you go. Go ahead.
He had a temper, though. My boss tried to sleep with me, and when I kept telling him no, one time he picked up a chair and threw it. I kid you not. He picked up a chair and literally threw it at me. It was not fun times working there. I mean, it was bad.
And
I
that's,
mean, there was so much going on. There was a lot of really bad stuff going on at Bennigan's. And I had one boss that actually left Bennigan's because he saw what was going on with me, and he was scared half to death because he knew exactly what he was looking at.
well, you know what's funny?
And
You know what's funny is
he took off and went back to Michigan. He was from Michigan too, by the way. And he got so freaked out. He went back to Michigan, and I actually met up with him in Michigan. I said, "Oh my gosh!" I said, did he move from California a few years back?" And they're like, "Yeah." I go, "Oh my gosh, he was my boss at Bennigan's, but he was a good guy." And he actually hired me at the Civic Center. And when I wouldn't, placate Governor Ingram's advances, I was fired.
Well, I want to stick
Because
with
we
Michigan.
would do political events and things, of course. I needed a job.
Well, you know what I was gonna say is in these military towns and these government, wherever there's government, military, any of this stuff, for somebody to get in control of a Bennigan's and run the whole thing as a facade operation, everybody there is somebody. There's nobody there, even the bus boy. When he's over there picking up glasses or whatever, and these two dudes from NASA are over at the table getting drunk, the bus.
Oh, wait. There was a guy. Listen to this. There was a guy named Chuck that I worked with, and he was very, very good looking. I remember that he used to brag. See, even though he was good looking, I could not stand Chuck. I thought he was an arrogant narcissist, and he got on my nerves.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry. I'm not like just I don't look at guys just for their looks. I
Right.
mean, this guy was just an idiot.
He's probably gay.
And,
He was probably there for the gay clientele anyway. But go ahead.
No, definitely not. But no, I never dated him. I would never date him. But what ended up happening was I remember that he used to brag that he was a Mason, moving up the ladder. Oh, he loved to brag about that. And I looked at him and I said, "Do you understand how evil that is, Chuck?" And he said, He said, "There's good and bad in everything." Mm-hmm. It's like he knew and he just candy coated. It's like he was so money hungry he didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I specifically remember that. And I'll never forget the girl that replaced me. And when I saw her, I cried because I knew she was me. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. It totally does. And
she was
cast for the role, yeah.
She was beautiful. Her name was Gina. And I remember one time I came in with my friends and I looked at her and we smiled. And I looked at her, I said, "If you ever need to talk, I'm here."
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "No." And she was like shaking her head like, like there's ears and eyes everywhere, which there was.
Right.
And so it was real quiet, but I always prayed for her, and she was beautiful. I mean, and just the sweetest, cutest, most adorable little thing. But oh my gosh, she was drop dead gorgeous. Yes, she was.
Well,
And-
when the manager is a brother and the brothers call up, say, "Hey man, we're gonna come there after hours tonight. We need to install some equipment or whatever." They just come in and put cameras everywhere, there's microphones everywhere. So this whole thing is it's like a satellite store or a franchise of an operation that's run all over the country using different kinds of. This is Bennigan's, but maybe down in San Diego it's going to be Cheetah's, the strip club, or maybe over here it's going to be
Right.
this. But the big boy on the block,
or the Outback. Hey, or the Outback.
or the Outback, but the big boy on the block, the master of it all was the Playboy Mansion and the Playboy operation, because it was the model that all these other places over here, the Bennigan's and all this is where you are before you get to the Playboy Mansion. These are the places where they work it all out. They figure out who it is, and out of these subsequent franchises, out of all them, which girls are going to be migrating up into the major leagues.
I just thought of something too, Jimmy. Check this out. So my first handler in California was Deputy Sheriff Gary Miller. And I had left my husband because he was doing like a lot of coke.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want my daughter around it. Like I said, I've always had a lot of morals. You know, I've always tried to raise my daughter with dignity and how to be a lady, how to carry yourself. And, you know, I started her very young. I was always worried about influences around her. You know, I wanted her to have the kind of life I never did have.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately left Joe. I didn't love him anyways. I never did. And that might sound cold, but he knew it. We were friends. We had been friends for a long time. And I'm going to give you a little bit about Joe's background. His mom and his stepdad were both NSA and sat on the board for Brock Aerospace.
Mm-hmm.
4 of his uncles, who were Byrings, were CIA. I mean, it was a very prominent Irish Nazi-ish family.
Right.
And I guess that's the best way I can put it. It's not funny, but you know what?
No.
Sometimes you just got to laugh at some of this stuff, Jimmy, because I can't change it.
That's right.
And you know, if you can't laugh at something, what else are you going to do?
That's right.
So yeah, I mean,
you can't.
It gets to be too much. You can't cry over everything. Oh my gosh, you'll miss half of your life.
Right.
I made a decision one day. Look, I'm going to take my life back, and I will do whatever it takes to survive.
Hell yeah.
If nothing more than to just piss them off.
There you go. I mean,
does that make sense?
That makes all the sense in the world. And I think
that's my revenge.
Sounds like you got revenge. And so hey, let's see. Did you want to take a couple more questions from Brandy and Rio over there, because they're still hanging quiet, and I know Brandy just would really love to talk to you, and have some feminine discussion with you instead of it's loaded up with dudes over here. So we're the pirate ship. We'll take a rest over here, and we'll let Brandy come on board and come on in and meet April and get to know each other a little bit, and maybe you might have a few questions for April before. I don't know how much longer you can stay. We can go as long as you wish. So just let me know when you're tired, and then we'll exit stage left. But Brandy, in the meantime, did you have any questions for April?
I am wondering, April, how in the world? First of all, your strength is incredible for what you've been through. You've been able to take it and turn it and be able to live a life. And you don't sound like a depressed person or anything. I mean, you're upbeat, you're positive. And I wonder, day to day, what kind of things do you do to help yourself through this? I mean, I think that there's a lot of value in us hearing that, because pretty much all of us haven't had to go through what you've gone through. So how do you do that? How do you find that strength? And it sounds like you have a strong spiritual connection.
I think a lot of people are going through what she went through on a micro scale, though, but what we've been through for the last year with the trauma we've been through. So it's a minuscule version. We might say a microcosmic version. April,
it's
go
trauma.
ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, the way people have been traumatized politically, multiply that by 1 million on a very, very personally targeted level, and then people could understand. And I stay upbeat. It doesn't mean my life is easy. It's very hard to date. The first thing guys want to know is, why don't you work? Why don't you have a car? And then there comes the conversation. I try to hold it off as long as I can, because I think, if they just get to know me, it doesn't work. So what ends up happening is they look at you like you're less than you are, like somehow you created the situation. Although I will say that's not the normal reaction. I've maybe had that happen to me once. And the rest of the time, it's usually about, I guess I get tired of, I don't like being smarter than the guys I'm with. So I get bored really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I expect them, I mean, if you don't know something, I'm not going to hold that against you. But it's like there's nothing that annoys me more than people that don't want to know anything and then claim ignorance at the end. When they were given the stuff to look at or to know and they chose not to, you know what that's really saying? I don't care. Well, I do care, so I need to be with someone that cares.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
I see what you mean.
I mean, there's so many people that are willing to hand over their freedoms right now. I'm sorry. I want somebody that's not going to do that. You know, life hasn't been easy. I had 14 PTSD attacks where they had to stop and restart my heart last year.
Man.
They say that my attacks are as bad as the vets coming out of Afghanistan. And I was even set up with a cardiologist because my doctor was just bedazzled. He couldn't understand why these things were happening to me. I told him I was trafficked. Obviously, he still don't get it. And that's what I tell most people because it gives a basis for what I think they can handle, because most people don't have a point of reference for MK Ultra. They have no idea what it is. And I think it scares people and they don't want to know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Well, when you talk to your doctors, do they laugh at you? Do they refer you to a psychiatrist? I mean, I can't imagine going through what you've gone through and going in to get medical treatment.
It has
and
happened.
You know, what do I share, you know?
Well, it has happened, as a matter of fact. Here's what happened just recently. I mean, I have a whole history of severe PTSD attacks. I mean, my heart rate gets up to 238. And when I go into PTSD and the EMTs are called, then comes the fire department, the police department, because I'm so severe, anybody that's free rushes to my house because they know when my tachycardia will climb so fast they won't even be able to control. Yeah, they get here real fast. And I remember one of the firemen was on the phone with the EMT because I'm sure, you know, there's other things that go on in our town. And the ambulance was tied up. He goes, I'm telling you, you got to hurry. Her heart rate's climbing. I'm getting scared. He says, she's over 230. You got to hurry. And so anyways, next thing you know, here they come again. Well, I got sick of it. And I found out that my old doctor had died. And he died of liver cancer and didn't tell anyone he was sick. He was absolutely amazing. And he actually wrote notes in my chart. And I think, he said, is it okay if I write notes in your chart? Well, I would rather have him do that so that a documented MD, I mean, he knows what he's talking about. I mean, he knows what my physical condition was. You know, he's the one that set me up with the cardiologist that said, yeah, PTSD, it's not her heart. And so long story short, he dies and the girls talked me into going with the new doctor that took over the office. Now, here's what I ended up with. I ended up with a feminist doctor, we'll just put it that way. And she came in and sat down and she goes, well, she says, how are we doing today? Because, you know, I was looking over your chart and I was thinking, you know, I think that the Xanax is a Band-Aid. And I think what we need to do is set you up with a therapist and find out what's going on up here. I wanted to smack her. I wanted to punch her so freaking hard.
Oh, man.
I stood up. I looked at her and I said, okay, you whack-a-nut. And I said, we're done. And I grabbed my stuff and I slammed out of her office. I came home in tears. She took away all my medication and she left me she prescribed me 28 pills and the month had 30 days in it.
Oh my God.
And she said that would be my last prescription. And Mary's going, she did what? No. My roommate is the one that usually has to come and retrieve me from the ER in the middle of the night when she's got to work early in the next day. So you can imagine what that's like for her, bless her heart, right? And plus, she doesn't like sitting there holding my hand when they stop my heart. And it's like when I come up, I mean, sometimes I'm scared I'm not going to come back.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And if I can come back and I'm coughing and gasping for air. It's a horrible feeling. All of a sudden, you can't breathe, and to be going under, and then boom, you're back and you're gasping. It's horrific.
And
That's why they put the elderly, under when they do it to them, because it's hard to take. And, you do that to somebody, it's hard enough. Of course, you're going to do damage to it. Well, I haven't had any damage yet. But so Mary says, well, you know what? She says, my boss is your cardiologist. She goes, I think you need to call the office, schedule an appointment with him because he knows the score, and have him refer you a real doctor.
Oh my God.
And basically I said, I went into his office, I was in tears, and he says, oh my gosh, he goes, you've had 2 PTSD attacks. He said, what's going on? I said, she took my medication. He said, who took it? And I told him, and he was livid. I've never seen him so angry.
Oh man.
And he said, what was her name? And I gave it to him. And he says, okay. He said, honey, here's what I'm going to do. He says, I have an old business partner. She's a DO.
Mm-hmm.
I trust her with everything. She is very aware of MK Ultra, and she takes care of a lot of vets that have come out of Afghanistan and the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I know she'll help you. He said, so if you want to wait in the parking lot, or you can wait in the waiting room, or go visit with Mary. I said, no. He told me I could go back there and visit with her while she's working. I looked at him, I said, no, I'm not going to disturb her while she's working.
Well, it's interesting.
That's how laid back he is, right? So anyways, he hooks me up with this doctor, and I just love her. I can't say her name, but I love her. And she's a conservative, and which makes a big difference in your ideology.
Yes.
And what you are willing to accept or not accept. And so she took me immediately, and I just fell in love with her. And the first thing she did is she goes, I'm going to tell you one thing I do agree with. She said, I think we need to get rid of the Xanax. And she put a piece of paper in my hand. She goes, I'm going to write you a prescription for Xanax to get you through. She goes, you need to call that doctor. She goes, it's prestodoctor.com. She goes, it's a legit site. And she goes, I'm telling you, I want you to try medical marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And that has made a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had an attack since, I've been on it, except for one time. I didn't smoke anything because I was going for a colonoscopy, and I didn't think it was smart to use marijuana when you're going under anesthesia. Follow?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny that it helps break you out of some of that stuff that happens to people from a programming aspect, and that was why they fought so hard for so long to keep people from being able to legally smoke it. In other words, if you want to break away from the programming, that's fine, but if we catch you, you're gonna throw it. Like I saw a thing, a dude just got out of prison. He spent 25 years of his life in prison for selling 3 pounds of cannabis. My name's Jimmy. It's Aftermath.fm. When we come back, we're going to get back into this a little bit more, because I want to focus on the Dubai aspect that we were talking about before the show and the pre-show. And Epic Journeyman, be ready to come back and ask your questions, because I know you had some questions regarding Dubai. It's Aftermath.fm. Your Aftermath.fm is where it is. Let's see, tune in, turn on, and find out, ladies and gentlemen.
Spread out before
It's your alternative to the alternative. It's Into the Microcosm. Sitting here with the bad boy of the underground. It's Ron Patton and Epic Journeyman Brandy Lou, Rockin' Rio, and our very, very special guest. And so honored that you're here, that you're willing to share part of your life with us here. Personal stories that, are really nobody's business. But we appreciate you stepping up and really exposing some of these horrible things that are going on. They're happening to girls all over America. You don't go down to Hollywood and sit on a stool, get discovered. You may go down to Hollywood, sit on a stool, but you're going to end up in the valley doing porn. That's pretty much what happens to a lot of girls who go down to Hollywood, try to be a star. A lot of girls have that dream, and a lot of girls find out the hard way. They end up in situations that they're out of control of. They can't get out, and they're trapped. And you were trapped, and you got out. And I applaud you, and I cannot believe how sane and together you are. And I really appreciate you, like I say, stopping by. Epic Journeyman, hola.
I am here.
All right, let's get into the Dubai connection with our guest April, and let's talk a little bit about that because I think it's an important aspect of the story.
Yeah, so we're gonna get there with a brief summary of what I've heard so far from April and get us to Dubai where it's gonna make a little sense. So there's this conjunction of the academic world, right, and that comes out of these tests that she had in Michigan, right? Those same tests get done all over the country, but Michigan is one of the main places where radical politics are fermented, basically, in the university level. That's where, like, the Weather Underground, all those people came from. Absolutely. And that stuff moved to the West Coast, and it's we go through the Bay Area, and Berkeley and Stanford, and then down into L.A. Well, that other conjunction with that world is Playboy Club, absolutely, and these three-letter agencies, in particular the CIA. So we're talking about going from Michigan as an orphan, or not as an orphan necessarily, but foster care, and then being put in this program. And that is so common. That is such a common thing, common trait that me and Jimmy have looked at over the years, and it's absolutely there. And then you go from there to you talk about the people coming from the aerospace industry at Bennigan's, places you wouldn't think, most people wouldn't even think about, right? There, and Acapulco, you mentioned Acapulco's, which I know the one in Burbank, which is right across from the Tonight Show, is a real popular place where a lot of Hollywood people come and go through there. A lot of celebrities, a lot of people discovered. Yep. And that's a hot spot. It really is. And so then you have this connection there that somehow we're going to get to this part because you haven't filled this part in yet, where you get with the Playboy Club. And then Playboy Club is absolutely pivotal in this 100%. It's a nexus for all this, for a lot of it. And then you end up in 1994 being rescued by Senator Mickelson of South Dakota on a plane, right? After meeting him at
No.
an event.
No.
Okay.
It wasn't South Dakota. No, it was out of California. And I wasn't rescued by. You mean U.S. Senator?
Yeah.
Patrick Mickelson? I don't know what state he was out of. I just know that I met him in California.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think he's South Dakota. I'll double check.
Okay.
Ron helped get her out with the special forces dude.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting to. Is like the whole episode.
That's a different rescue. I've been rescued twice because they just wouldn't go away. The second time was on my 33rd birthday, and they were looking to sacrifice me, not use me anymore.
Well, Ted Gunderson you mentioned earlier too, and that comes into play here because he's tied in so much to a lot of this as well.
Oh yeah, he was evil, definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, let's guys.
I ran from him after on. I'm like, no, I'm
he
good.
was supposed to help. He was supposed to help with getting a more secure place for April, but instead, what he said is, "Well, you can just come back to my place in Las Vegas." And you were trying to run away from the Tantinis who were involved in the mob in Las Vegas, right?
Get out of here. So he said he could find you a safe place, and then after he got your attention, he said, "Oh well, listen, baby, why don't you just come back to my place in Vegas?"
Yep.
That's exactly what he did. You betcha.
Jesus.
I know. It seemed like, except for Ron, it seemed like every man that came in my life to help me, except for Ron and U.S. Senator Patrick Mickelson, it's like
They were
there was always an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's right.
they're just sick.
Right.
Sick.
So, yeah,
I'm telling
sick.
you. And there's so many fake whistleblowers.
Oh, fuck.
Survivors don't know who to trust. I mean, you just don't, because everybody's pretending to be somebody else. It's
Yeah.
like a masquerade ball, and
It
you've got
is.
to figure out what's behind the mask, and you better be really good in your assessment, because it could cost you your life.
That's right.
And I've become an excellent discerner
I bet you
of
are.
people.
Well,
It doesn't
it's
take me
really,
long.
it's really, I tell you, man, it's really messed up because I see the manipulation point that was there for you at that moment, and these dudes like trying to take advantage of the fact that you were in a position like that, and then use it to get themselves in a position to be near you, where if they were just out in the street, they wouldn't have any work, they wouldn't have any business even talking to you, they wouldn't even be in the conversation. But all of a sudden now, because you're in a vulnerable situation, they try to manipulate you and take advantage of you so that they can, perpetuate their own sexual desires or whatever.
I never let that happen.
What is that noise? I think I hear some. I think there's some chimes
Oh,
going.
it's the chimes. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was
trying to sit out in the patio. Is that too just
We thought it was some
I thought
handler out there trying to get to you.
No, I thought somebody was coming. I thought someone was coming to get me. No, I'm just.
no.
No, I'm teasing. Go ahead.
That's just the chimes. I mean, are they loud?
No, you were good now. But anyways, let's get back. Let's get back to the Dubai thing. I didn't mean to sidetrack everybody, but go ahead. Get back into the Dubai thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me get to that and we set that up. So the Playboy Club, you mentioned Vegas. That's awesome because that also ties into the research we've done exactly. There's a nexus there too. We'll get to that maybe later. But the Dubai thing, it turns out that this whole thing is international. People think it's a United States only thing. It's not. It's international.
No, it's not.
And the focal point for a lot of this stuff is the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. And that's because they ship all the opium from Afghanistan through there. So it's the criminal underworld as well as the three-lettered agencies who make their money that way, the gray market economy.
Epic was a contract. Yep. Epic was a contractor in Iraq. Epic was on a submarine hunting Russian submarines around the world under the ocean. So Epic has firsthand boots on the ground experience in the Middle East. Go ahead, Epic.
Yeah, so with Dubai, one of the things that people don't know is how seedy it actually is. So there are women trafficked from all over the world there, from every country, to satisfy the needs of these wealthy men and powerful men. And there's full-on clubs. There's like one called the Cyclone Club, for example. It has like Hollywood lights and stuff there shining everywhere. And they bring in these girls, from the Ukraine, from Russia, from Mexico, from China, from wherever, any nationality, any kind of desirable thing you want, right? And it's they have what's called sex worker licenses, and they stay there for 2 or 3 years on these visas. But how many of them really are there as sex workers, right? How many of them are brought there and trafficked there? And the thing that happens is a lot of these girls end up on someone's yacht, and you never see them again. So I'll let you follow it up from there. Tell your experience.
Well, when I say pipeline, I was at a compound, and it was in Upland, California, and I was being held by Michael Fontenot. He would not let me out much. How I ended up there, just so that you know, is he would come into Bennigan's all the time. For 2 years, he begged me to go out with him. And I kept telling him no. And I remember somebody telling me, don't do it. You don't understand who or what he is. Don't do it. And of course, when it's coming from a guy that likes you, how much are you going to really hold that to water, right? So, I didn't know. It gets to the point when you're so traumatized, it's like you go through trauma. You just inherently trust the next person you're with. And if you're smart and your intuition is good enough, you can escape the situation before they off you. And that's about as accurate as I can get on that one. Well, Michael Fontenot came in the middle of the night and helped me get my stuff out of my house because I had pictures of me with prominent people. And, I didn't think anything of it because I didn't understand what I was. I just thought that I had really, really, really bad luck in a really bad life. I just thought everybody went through stuff like this. I didn't feel special. And when I heard other people that had good lives, I just thought they were lucky. So anyways, Michael Fontenot moved my stuff out, and he moved me in with him. And it was weird. This location was hidden in plain sight. It was bizarre. And his house was bizarre. I mean, he would open up closet doors that had staircases that had rooms. It was like nothing I'd ever seen in my life. And there was a pool out back, and it was, you know, locked with a gate. There was a lock to go out to the pool, and then there was a lock once you're in the pool. So it's like it was very hard. And it never occurred to me that I was being held prisoner until I wanted to go somewhere. And then I realized, oh my gosh, he didn't lock me in for my safety. He locked me in so I couldn't escape. And then reality sets in. And I would say that was my aha moment. And he told me that, you know, when I got to his house, I started looking around, and I knew right away I was in a bad situation. I saw like this glass case with a bronze statue of a man with wings on top of a box, and it said Michael Anthony Fontenot. And I saw a little cup of holy water and like a little thing of thorns, like a miniature replica of like the thorns that Christ would have worn on his head. I saw like they had these cards of like a hand, and from each fingertip an angel was falling. Then he had a candle of Jesus wearing the Sacred Heart. I mean, just all kinds of bizarre stuff. And then I looked over at his mirror, and it was gold, but I didn't realize what was etched in the mirror until I got closer, and there was a bunch of skeleton heads. And the whole thing was rather bizarre. And then I looked over and I noticed a microphone, like an intercom above his bed. And then I started to worry. I knew I was somewhere I shouldn't be. And I remember looking at that, thinking to myself, I'm in trouble. And then I thought, if I could just kill him. And all of a sudden, now keep in mind, I thought that. You know what he said? I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would have men in here so quick, you wouldn't get the chance to do nothing.
So
and then I realized he could read my thoughts. And that was, I think, one of the creepiest things.
Wow.
These are the events that really, really brought me back to a strong relationship with Christ. I mean, we read in the Bible about stuff, but you never think you're ever going to encounter the other side of this world that God talks about in the Bible. And as far as I know, I don't know. I got pretty deep. I can't believe that I'm still here sometimes. And I know the only explanation for it was God. I think that, you know, if God says no, that means no, you don't touch him.
That's right.
And I think, you know, that's the only explanation I can give, because I should be dead. I mean, look at all the people that Clintons have had murdered, and every attempt they've made on my life has failed, and failed miserably. Michael Fontenot was supposed to kill me, and he couldn't. And he told me because he fell in love with me. Now, I did not love him, never did, never liked him that way. I was just accepting his help. I didn't love anybody. I just wanted to go home.
Well, let me ask you this:
And,
did you go to these? Did you go to any of these masquerade balls where everybody's wearing masks, just like they showed in the movie with?
Eyes Wide Shut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was that like at the level where you were at? And if that was, were you wearing a certain color on a regular basis when you were at these parties, or did your color change as you visited these parties through the time period that you were there?
I don't remember. I only remember one party. And I don't remember the others. I'm sure there's more. I just don't remember them. I have a lot of gaps. but yes,
Yeah.
I have been to one of those parties.
Well, it's interesting.
And to me, I think that was one of the most horrific. It was one of the most scary times, because what you have is you have leaders, world leaders, you have ambassadors, you have people that own major, international companies. You have the elite of the elite. You have like the De Beers that own the diamond mines. You have, McDonald's and Brock, aerospace-based people. You have, anybody that's anybody, everybody that's anybody is there. And once you've been around enough, you know the voices. You know the voices of your abusers.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just leave it at that. To me, that's private. It's very, very private. There's certain things I will never tell. And it's not because, it's just because it's irrelevant who it was.
That's who it is isn't.
And I have to think about my daughter too.
Yeah. Who it is not relevant. All you're doing.
Right. Exactly.
All you're doing is you're solidifying something that people speculate about. But you're not speculating about it. You didn't go watch some videos on YouTube.
No, I wish.
You were living something here, and you're literally exposing it for what it is. The names, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really care. If you want to drop some names, that's cool too. But the thing about it is, you're sharing a part of yourself that you don't have to share. You don't have to tell anybody this. You could go away quietly and live your life kicking back on the beach somewhere, eating mangoes or whatever, and then, you don't have...
it takes money to do that. They keep you pretty destitute.
That's right. Well, yeah, it doesn't happen by accident. So,
no, it doesn't.
No.
Can you imagine sitting at home with 169 IQ on disability, keeping yourself busy every day so you don't lose your mind, because you know that you're just wasting your life and you're capable of so much. You can't imagine what that feels like.
Well, yes, I can.
And being stalled.
No, I can't.
Every single avenue you try.
I could totally identify with you almost on that level. I'm a little lower on the scale, but not much. But yeah, I can definitely relate to what you're saying. And my name's Jimmy. It's in the Microcosm Aftermath.fm. I'm sitting here with Ron Patton, the bad boy, the man, the myth, the legend, the executive producer of Ground Zero. He also is on top. He's been there before anybody. Paranoia Magazine. You can go over that. What's Ron? I can only keep so much stuff in my brain for the show.
Oh, sure.
Could you drop again where we could find all the stuff? Because you got so much stuff, man. You put in so much time, energy, work over the years, man. You had your own little shop.
Oh yeah, actually, I had some conspiracy stores.
Yeah,
I
man.
had one in Hillcrest area of San Diego called Conspirazine, and then downtown San Diego, the Paranoia store. And then I opened up the Conspirazone in downtown Portland a few years ago.
You did a bunch of... People don't know this about you, I bet you I know something about you we could share right now, and you'll be stoked about it. Is you got some bros down in San Diego that put movies together. You actually been in a couple little work pieces of work they put together down there, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Movie called South of 8. Sort of a dystopian crime thriller. And that came out in 2016. But and then I was in this movie a documentary about the Illuminati with it was with Clyde Lewis and Johnny Royal.
Badass.
It was actually filmed at the South Pasadena Masonic Lodge.
Oh, cool.
But what we did is we talked about sort of the pop culture aspect of the Illuminati and how in reality it really doesn't exist. But a lot of people use it as a catchphrase to kind of express who's ruling the world.
Right. Like, well, especially like, for example, Taco Bell, they're using it to express who's ruling the world. Because the familiarity with it, because of everything that's taken place over the last 10 years on the internet with people putting information up there, they can see people are interested in the Illuminati by how many millions of views shit gets clicked on.
Yeah.
You don't have to be much of a genius in the marketing business to go over and figure out how to sell stuff. I mean, I see this thing comes up on my thing every day when I'm looking at a video or something. I see this ad and it says this is the pitch. In the first 10 seconds, the guy comes on there and he goes like this to me: "The system doesn't want you to know about this." You know, and I was like, "Well, tell me." I'm sitting there. I'm like, "Well, tell me more." You know, it's so ridiculous.
Right.
I know, it's so ridiculous. Anyway, how much longer do you want to keep going, April? Because you're welcome to come back, and we could do a part 2, and then you can.
Oh yeah.
It's up to you guys. I'm fine. I really am.
Well, I'll tell you
I'm
this.
good.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to play a song that lasts 4 minutes and 5 seconds, or I'm going to try to play it.
It's not going to be. Wait. It's not going to be Hotel California, is it? If it is,
it will
I
not
have
be.
to mute you.
I hate that song.
That will trigger me. I can't do it. I
No,
can't.
I hate that song, so don't worry about it. We've done actually.
Okay, if it's not that song, I'm okay. I cannot do that song. That even with medical marijuana, I have a hard time with that one.
No problem. Don't worry. And we've done shows about that song because Rock and Rio, are you there? He's been sitting in the dark. He's been sitting quiet. Rock and Rio.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, listen. Rock and Rio is a sound engineer. He works on the show too. He's part of the show. And he's been hanging back, but part of what he does is he does a lot of reverse speech stuff. He's done a lot of work specifically on that song before he was even on the show. And Rock and Rio, what's going on in that song in reverse? I mean, don't play it. Just is there something going on there that may be triggering April subsonically that may be triggering her back to something that happened or some way that she was mesmerized or hypnotized? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, there's obviously there's the reverse messages that are in the song too, but if you run a spectral analyzer on it, you can find that there's subaudible tones and waves that are embedded in the song that you would hear forward and backward that could possibly, it would trigger somebody.
Okay, so somebody in her position that might have been under hypnosis, that had early on the show, we played something called psychic driving, where messages are repeated over and over again while a person is under the hypnosis. Could they have been using psychic driving with this song, playing it over and over again for her when she was under this hypnotic trance, where she doesn't really remember that, but that song is itself, it triggers. It's like that movie Telephone, when the dude calls them on the phone and goes, "Oh, the woods are beautiful, dark and deep, and you've got miles to go before you sleep," and then the dude just drives off and blows something up, that kind of thing. So you're telling me there's ultrasonic frequencies on that song, both in forward and reverse, that are not audible to the naked ear, but could trigger someone who had been trained to be triggered when that frequency hit their brain. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and not just that song, but if you look at a lot of other songs, that's the reason that they stay up at number one for a long, long time, is because they're engineered and designed to be that way. So, using that as a trigger, that's everybody knows every word to that song.
All right, so you're not triggered by. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, it would be a common thing. Like, it would be easy to do that. It would be easy to embed that, and it could set you off at any time because it's so popular. It's played all the time. But yeah, some of the messages that are hidden in the reverse are kind of overtly evil, and some of them are sexual, and some of them are just kind of the dark side stuff,
Yeah, and you can check in, but you can never leave.
That's right.
Hey,
I mean, even
you
even
can
the forward
check out,
lyrics.
but you can never leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the forward lyrics are a little bit creepy.
Hey, let me ask you this: are you triggered by Sarah McLachlan?
Yes.
Okay. Are you?
Absolutely. I can tell you, when she talks about building a mystery, she's talking about the Freemasons.
Well, I was just about to play that song, and I'm glad that I asked you first. I'll tell you what.
Please don't play
I'm not,
Sarah McLachlan. And the
I,
song "Fallen" is another one that triggers me.
Right. No, there's 13 songs that are typically used for psychic driving under hypnosis programming. And I don't know what all 13 of them are, but that's why when you guys were just talking a moment ago, I
could tell you this. I know that I wouldn't be surprised because I don't know what they are, but I'm just going to take a stab. And I'm going to say silent lucidity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say sound of silence.
Right.
I'm going to say Hotel California. A lot of things Sarah McLachlan.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things Amy Lee, Evanescence.
Mm-hmm.
But Evanescence doesn't affect me as much. It used to, but then once I got used to hearing it, it was okay. The other ones I got used to hearing them, and it still wasn't okay. I don't know why.
What about?
I can't tell you the difference. I just don't know.
What about the band Tesla?
I don't listen to them.
Okay, good.
Never heard it.
Okay, there you go.
I don't listen to a lot of modern music. That's why people look at me weird that I don't know songs. But
don't worry about it.
I mean, it's not that I don't listen to the music. I'm careful about what I'm exposing myself to.
Hey, that's the number one thing people should pay attention to in this world is make sure that you're in charge. Listen, man, if you're not in charge of your mind, if you don't control your mind, somebody else will. And the thing is, control what comes into your life. Don't seek out the negative don't seek out the negative constantly. Don't the thing is, the internet provides you exactly what you're looking for. It's if you're looking for the negative shit, if you're looking for the end of the world, man, it's going to be there for you. And every time you go on the internet and open it up, it's going to want to show you all this horrible shit. And you can get sucked into the, this altered negativity where millions of people are, it's the end of the world now. And of course, eventually...
You know what? Speaking of which, there's a song that triggers me that you were talking about. And it said, if I told you something about the end of the world, it says, would you be with me? It says, right? Right?
Right.
That song bothers me too. I don't know why.
No,
probably because people like me that have been where I've been, that have seen the spiritual side of the stuff that most people never see. You read it in the Bible, you know it's there, but very few people ever see it and live to talk about it. So for someone like me, knowing what time it is, looking at prophecy, reading the Bible, seeing the other side, yeah, that song's going to trigger me. And then I'll tell you another one that does is Toby Mac, New World. Have you ever heard it?
No.
It says, here's what's bizarre. It says, she saw the new world. No one believed her. No one could believe that it was true. And then it talks about some other stuff. And then it says, and she walked through Babylon. And it says, she saw the new world. She saw the new world. Get it?
Powerful.
And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, if that isn't pinpointed at people like me, what's it about?
That's super intense. Seriously.
And that's supposed to be a Christian band, but I'm sorry, this modern conservative Christian music, I don't buy into it. I know it's stuff to pull people away from the gospel, just like these New Age Bibles are, people don't realize, these Bibles are to detract away from the King James Version, and they're going, well, where's the original manuscripts? Well, there were no original manuscripts. The Bible even says they make copies of copies of copies. There are no originals. So explain to me how the Vatican, after 2,000 years, finds perfect papyrus paper rolled up in the sand by the water in mint condition. And people believe that. It's kind of like they believe the magic bullet theory, which and you just wonder what the level of stupidity is going to reach next. It's like people have lost the ability to think, They have no common sense. They don't think anything through. And then you have the other ones that have to think everything through to the point of annoyance, and they get nowhere because no matter how hard they try to figure things out, they just can't.
Plus the
And they're like stuck in their own limbo.
the ministry of Christ, he was walking around just talking to people. Nobody was there was no scribe everywhere he went. It's not modern.
Yep.
This isn't the modern world, man. This is a dude just walking up and talking to 2 or 3 people here, 2 or 3 people there, boom. And the thing about people, the Christ consciousness or what was going on with Jesus Christ caught on like wildfire. That's why they were throwing people to the lions, man.
Well, what people don't realize is the church was necessary. I mean, in the New Testament, he absolutely talks about the order of the church, and he's talking about when you gather together. So there is a gathering somewhere, we get that. But here's the problem. We're living in a time of apostasy. Everybody's playing rock music. They dim the lights down. Nobody hears the gospel anymore. Everyone's forgotten it, and everybody's pretty much just living for themselves. And I just sit back and I look. I don't go to church. I mean, we home church. This morning we watched, I hook up the HDMI cord. Now, I was doing this way back in like 2011 before most people even knew what was going on. I knew that, hey, $160 for a cable bill? Why? That's gone. And my roommate Mary goes, well, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to show you an easier way of getting. I said, you know what? We don't watch sports and stuff. I said, so Mary, watch this. And when we do, most of the time it's on TV or you can find it somewhere on the internet. So here's what you do. There's an HDMI cord. It goes from the TV. It connects right in the back of this TV. And I showed her the USB cord. And I plugged it in. I said, now watch this. I said, what movie do you want to watch off YouTube? She goes, they have Lifetime on there, Hallmark? I'm like, sure. So I pull it up, and all of a sudden we're streaming movies. I go, see, do we need cable? No. So we got rid of it. We were doing that before most people. Mary always laughs. She goes, you're always one of the first people to do everything. And I said, I know, right? So people are trying to explain to me this cool idea. I go, oh yeah, I've been doing that since 2011. Okay, though, but thank you. And sometimes I forget how that comes off, and I just have to go, oh, well, thank you, because I don't mean it like that. And so I have to be really careful how I come across to people sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I don't mean it to be the way it sounds.
Yeah,
so I have to choose my words carefully so people do not think I'm talking down to them or acting like I know everything. You get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, so it's just that it gets misinterpreted to mean something else.
It does, big time, because I'm not a mean person. I'm really not. The only time I'm ever mean is when it comes to my daughter.
Well,
That's
you should
the only
be.
time.
Yeah, well, of course, any mama would be mean to protect their babies, so, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing to be ashamed of there. So what we're going to do is I guarantee you've never heard this song in your life, so there's no way that it's going to trigger you. All right, so here we go. My name's Jimmy. It's in the Microcosm Aftermath.fm. We're going to take a quick break so everybody can breathe, get something to drink. Take it easy for a second, unwind, and we'll talk about, when we come back, maybe all of us can talk about what we all do to, ground ourselves and, stay solid, because April is as solid as they come, solid as a rock. Wherever other people are soft as a sock, April is solid as a rock. Mom's Jimmy. This is a band called All Them Witches. And the song is The Marriage of the Coyote Woman. And I'll tell you, I know somebody that might have had the same sort of experience similar to yours as far as Def Leppard was concerned. But they were...
Oh, with Joe Elliott?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So this person had an experience with the band Rush. And some mind control things that were going on with that. I'm trying to recall who it is. I think I know who it is. This is all Them Witches. My name's Jimmy. It's Aftermath.fm. Tune in, turn on, and find out the underground, the alternative to the alternative.
I never met a salesman like you before. Lines of the world just ripping us apart. Scratch run out along the way. Think I got one more word left to say. I never met a salesman like you before. Lines of the world just ripping us apart. Scratch right out, nice and slow.
So here's some live Johnny Winter. Be careful with a fool. You ain't gonna hear this anyplace else. Aftermath.fm.
Ah, be careful with a fool. Someday make us smart. Be careful with a fool. Someday make us smart. Treat you so cold and silly, Lord, it will hurt you to your heart. Ah, can't you remember, Lord, what a fool I used to be.
Johnny Winter. The albino, tall white. It's got soul, man. See, just right there. It's got soul. You don't get any whiter than albino, ladies and gentlemen.
I used to love you, woman. How bad you treated. You know I used to cry about you, woman.
All right. There he goes. He's heading back to the green room. See you in a bit, Johnny. Thank you. Appreciate that, man. It's hard to let him go, but this is talk radio, ladies and gentlemen. Aftermath.fm. I'm sitting here with Ron, Patton, the lovely April, the lovely Brandy Lou, the lovely Epic Journeyman, and the illustrious Rockin' Rio. It's Aftermath.fm. All right, we're coming down the home stretch. We got to get out of here soon. But that doesn't mean it's over. We have to have a part 2. We must. Well, can I ask you now? Will you come back, April, for a part 2?
Absolutely, because a lot of stuff we touched on, but we'd always go off into another question and it didn't get finished.
I know it's hard.
So yeah, definitely I will.
And
we got to talk about Olympia, what happened there, and also about the Horacio assassination as well.
Well, listen, I don't have to go anywhere. I mean, it's all up to you guys, man. If you're not tired, I'm sweet.
I think poor Ron. I think I traumatized.
I have to be going because I have another radio show I got to do in a little while.
You got stuff you got to go do?
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I really appreciate it. You guys want to just got final words or final questions for April, at least for now, and then we'll come back and visit once again with you, April, and that'll be great. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate you being here. And so, maybe next time we can, we didn't know what was going to happen. So we're just super stoked for everything that has happened so far. So do you guys have any final questions for April before we head on out the door?
Thanks so much for being here. I mean, really, really appreciate it. And I'd like to, follow up in the future for the next show. The missing time events, particularly that 1 to 3 months you mentioned, and the Playboy Club connection.
Yeah, because
I actually went there one time. I flew in a private helicopter there.
Oh, interesting. Now I've got time just for a minute. Which one? Which location?
I don't know. If you asked me, I couldn't tell you. I just know that's where we went. I'm not directional at all. I have a very hard time with direction, like north, south, east, west. I know how to follow directions. Thank God for GPS. I don't know north, south, east, west. I have a really hard time with time frames and dates. Some dates I remember because of specific events, but when you have trauma, you cannot remember every event when it's that close together all the time. I have a hard time with sequencing in my brain what happened first, or did that happen and then this happened? I can't remember in what order they happened. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. That ties in exactly to what I was asking about with the missing time. So it's appropriate. We're talking about hypnosis earlier.
Let me say this too, because at the beginning of the show, I played a piece of stuff that went on in Canada and some of this stuff that happened where they put people to sleep and hit them with electric shock therapy over periods of time and made them lose their memory. Well, listen, that was just the beginning of that. They don't need to hook anybody up to anything anymore. They don't need to do that.
I have the prod marks on the left side of my face, the width of a stun gun. And the thing that freaked me out was Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips. I was going to a church where I met my husband, and that was my second husband, Michael. And where we went to church, Philip Barron, I think was his name. He was the driver for Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips to meetings and stuff when they were in town.
Mm-hmm.
And real nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you're in church, you open up to people, and him and his wife Nancy became very close friends with Mike and I. And I felt safe opening up to them because they were our Christian friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, Philip relayed my story. I didn't know I think he asked if he could, and I said, that's fine. He relayed my story to Kathy O'Brien. I had no idea who she was. And Kathy and Mark reached out to me. And one of the first things based off my story that they heard, Mark asked me, he said, Penny, he says, do you have two moles on your face, one right at the curve of your cheekbone on your left-hand side and one down by your chin, vertical from each other? And he said so many inches apart. And I dropped the phone and I started going, oh my God, he's part of it. He's one of them. How does he know? I've never met them. And I freaked out. You can understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then come to find out that it was a common way of spotting people that were in the know of people like me, what program we were in and what it was used for. And the really funny thing is Marilyn Monroe has hers in the exact same spot. The bump at the bottom of her chin that's like a slight risen bump.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has the one right by her cheek. I have the same thing, exact same places. And the moles look identical. It's really kind of weird.
That is weird.
But Kathy had hers removed. So, yeah, that was in accordance to what you were just talking about. So, yeah, and I also have a really hard time, like, tanning. And this is why I don't tan my face, and I use, like, an airbrush. And even then it doesn't cover it up. But I have, where you smile, I have 2 white streaks. And then I have some white streaks going down by my cheek, and I have red spots on my face that do not tan. And Kathy, and it was really crazy because in the video she explains, because I was watching it, and it kind of creeped me out when I looked at my face, and I'm going, oh my God. And she said that was from repeated use of stun guns for the use of dropping and transporting.
Yeah, so maybe this method that we were describing early on with this he literally put somebody to sleep for 65 days, and the guy forgot 10 years of his life and could never remember it again. And so this was this was somebody that was in a facility, but let's just say they just take that and turn it into a thing. It's like a document. They ship it down someplace else, and all of a sudden people start using it. And I don't know. It's actually it's just mind-boggling. You are so strong and such as solid as a rock. Just in our conversation tonight, I'm stunned by just how together you are as a result of being through all that and coming out the other side of it. Brandy, did you have any?
That's God. It's all God, and God's put the right people in my path. I mean, I thank God for Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips. They really don't help survivors much anymore because they can get in trouble for, trying to be a counselor, which they're not. They've never counseled me ever once, and but I was very grateful when they reached out to me, and I got to spend some time and talk with Kathy and Mark. I spent a whole night down in Detroit with them at a conference, and it was, it was really something. I mean, it was a very, very hard time for me. It's really hard to realize that all those really horrific things that happened to you, look, they weren't your fault.
Right.
You didn't just keep getting yourself in bad situations. It was a coordinated effort. This was all planned, and you were part of a program, and your whole life has been a lie. Try to swallow that pill, and I'm telling you, it took me 22 years to heal. I moved away from everybody. I went into seclusion. I had 3 jobs at a time working because I knew I wouldn't have one job for long and I'd get fired, and then I'd have 2 and I'd get one more because one of those would disappear. You know the score, right?
Right.
And
I do, actually.
So, yeah, and it's like you already know. I mean, my best friend Mary could even attest to it. I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, you know what's really cool? You know what's really cool, though? That there's somebody like Kathy O'Brien there for you to talk to that understands, because, I was in Alcoholics Anonymous for 25 years. I was sober, and the value of one alcoholic helping another one is unparalleled, because only another alcoholic could understand what an alcoholic goes through. And so you're in such a small, tiny little group where there's nobody else, around where you can all talk about it with each other. And now you got Kathy O'Brien in your life, and then boom, now here you are.
Well, you know what? You've got to remember something. Kathy and I don't talk much anymore because she can't put herself out there to get in trouble for talking to survivors. And I want to make it clear. Kathy has never, ever once, neither has Mark, ever counseled me. They have been there for me as friends.
That's what I mean.
When I needed her, she was there as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make that crystal clear.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Never once have I been counseled by either one of them.
No, that's not.
But
yeah,
I'll tell you what, I know, but for who's ever listening.
Oh, I see.
It's
yeah,
the powers to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Russian. According to some people, I'm a Russian spy, and to some others, I'm a black magic sorcerer. So I don't know. They make videos about it. It's a trip, but I get what you're saying. Don't worry about it.
What did you do? Meet Trump in secret, and you guys planned it together, right?
We totally did. No, actually, I got a buddy, Carl Street, and he's pals with the guys that own the Empire State Building, and I had him on my show. I had him on my show one night. And he goes, "Hey, you want to talk to Trump?" And I go, "What?" He goes, "Hey, you want to talk to Trump?" I go, "Get out of here, man." But if there was anybody in the world that I know that could call him, it's him, man, because he's been in business in New York for a super long time. My name's Jimmy. It's in the Microcosm. We're sitting here with April and Ron Patton from Aftermath Media, Aftermath.fm, Ground Zero, Paranoia Magazine. Gee, what don't you do, bro? You know what I mean? Tell everybody.
He's a horrible cook.
Get out of here.
Well, that's cool. Hey,
you don't know.
He has such a. I
had dinners at your house. I do too.
that wasn't me. That was my ex-wife.
No, she was a great cook.
Hey, the thing is Ron, he looks good, and he can hold a really great conversation. If he can't cook that bad, that's all right. You guys invite me over. I'll cook for all of you, and then we'll sit down and we'll have a nice big meal and enjoy our lives. You know what I mean?
I'm never leaving Oklahoma again, so it's going to have to take place here, because last time Whitmer locked me in for 2 more months and I wanted to be there.
Oh, my God. Rio had the same thing happen. He went to go visit his mom for Christmas, and he came back.
That's when I went with Christmas, and I just got home 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, wow. So you're staying put for a while. You're not going to be traveling anytime soon.
Oh no, absolutely not.
All right.
I've had enough. I'm home. I'm good.
Cool. Well, I'm here. I'm great to hear that. Let's go. Let's head out of here. My name's Jimmy. It's in the Microcosm Aftermath.fm. Tune in, turn on, and find out. Ron Patton, April, Brandy Lou, Epic Journeyman. Everybody say goodbye. We're on our way out of here. Everybody stay on the call when I end the YouTube stream. I just want to talk to you guys off the air here. So here we go.
Aloha, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Aloha and mahalo.
Have a good night, everybody. And thank you, April, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, April. Hey,
all right, thank you.
Hey, Ron, Epic Journeyman's got a place on the Big Island, and he's living on Maui. If you want to go over there, you just contact the Epic Journeyman. Man, I'm sure he's got space for you, bro.
Oh, yeah, dude, I grew up on Oahu, lived on Maui for 9 years.
Nice. See, man, it's a small synchronistic circle, ladies and gentlemen.
Go ahead. Hold on. You lived in Maui. Did you live in Maui in 1987?
Yes.
You lived on Front Street.
No, I lived on Front Street back around 82.
Dude,
82, I think, on Front Street.
Dude, you're not going to believe this shit. Do you know him, Epic Journeyman?
I bet I do.
Dude, you want to hear something? Here, everybody, here's some fun. Let's have
Dude,
some.
I worked at the Maui Marriott Resort.
Dude,
I
listen
worked
to
at the Sheraton and the Mahana.
Do you know Ron? Do you know Ron somehow?
I'm starting to wonder.
Well,
Did
listen.
you have a girlfriend that was a hula dancer at the time that went on tour?
No.
Okay, different Ron then. Man, close.
Listen to this. Listen to this, man. He goes to me one night on the air. He goes, hey, Jimmy. He goes, Jimmy, when you were in junior high, did you have a light blue skateboard? He goes, do you have a light blue skateboard? I go, yeah. He goes, I think I met you when we were in junior high. He met me in junior high. Now listen to this, dude. This is gonna blow your hair back. Mr. Gates comes on our air, right?
Right.
And he's, Mr. Gates is Mr. Vegas. So when he comes on, Epic goes, because Epic had a video store in Vegas, and he asked Mr. Gates if he ever went to this video store, and he did. They knew each other. Man,
so Epic is Mr. Synchronicity too,
he
right?
is, dude. I swear he is, man. It's crazy. All right, you guys, let's get out of here, man. We could be here all night.
Yep.
Because I'm totally infatuated with you, April. I mean, what a fantastic woman. What a fantastic story. Thank you so much for coming.
There's so many like me, though. There really are. People just aren't talking. That's all.
Well, that doesn't minimize what you're doing in any way, and I want to still give you props anyhow. Big props. All right, we're out of here.
Well, if there's ever any survivors out there and they're hurting, you can always direct them my way. I have no problem being a support system for someone else. I like to pay it forward.
That's beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. If you need to get a hold of me because you want to get a hold of her, jimmyjean27@gmail.com. jimmyjean27@gmail.com. Okay, this time for real. We're leaving. We're going. This is it.
When I get home from my job, I turn on my TV, but I can't keep my mind on the show. When I lay down at night, oh, I can't get no.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Aftermath.fm. It's into the microcosm.
But the only sound I hear is you whispering in my ear.
Thank you, Clyde Lewis. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Mr. Gates.
My love grows stronger, and the fever is worse. I've got the fever for it.